Should Black people defend themselves? I'm going to tell you the same thing my mother told me when I was a little girl. She told me that people can open their mouths and say anything they want to about you. That doesn't make it true. She said, never be the one to start a fight. No matter what someone says about you, never be the one to start a fight. If you can walk away and avoid that situation, walk away from that situation. But if they ever put their hands on you because they have no rights to touch you, if they ever put their hands on you, you hit them back harder than they hit you. And that's the same advice that I would give. Never be the aggressor. Never be the one to start a fight. If you're in a situation and you can walk away, regardless of what the person is saying, because those are just words, walk away. It's better to walk away without hitting someone. It's better to walk away without getting hit by someone if you can avoid it. But if it gets to the point where you can't avoid it, do whatever you need to do to protect yourself, but never be the aggressor. In this video, I am going to talk about several different situations. And it's very important to kind of pay attention to each of these situations so you can see what is really going on in the United States when it comes to Black people. And so the first situation I want to talk about is with the George Floyd. When Black people came together to do a peaceful march and protest about the violence that happened against George Floyd, that situation turned into a destructive, violent situation because Antifa came along and became a part of that. In another video, I spoke about Antifa. I also spoke about Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is a Marxist group, and they also are communists. They believe in undermining the United States government, and so does Antifa. So once Antifa became a part of the movement, the March for George Floyd, it became violent. They started breaking into stores. They started destroying public property. They started destroying police departments, banks, post offices, and different things like that. But because they were in with the George Floyd crowd, it made it look as if, look at those Black people. They are so violent. They are so destructive. Because yes, some Black people started, once it happened, they started participating into running in stores and taking things. They started participating in some of the violence. Some Black people did not. They still tried to do a peaceful protest, but it was all in one group and looked at all in one way. Now, what I want you to pay attention to, just recently they had two marches. I think they did two marches so far with white people coming out speaking against what's going on with Donald Trump. These people have the same mindset as Antifa. Antifa and these group of people that's coming out now marching, they have the same mindset. But I want you to notice one thing, because the Black people decided they're not going out marching. So when you look at the crowds are white people. But where's the Antifa? Where's the violence that Antifa had when it came to a Black peaceful protest? Where's the destruction that Antifa had? They're not doing anything because they can't blame it on Black people. They can't say, look at these violent Black people. They can't say, look at these aggressive Black people. They can't say anything about Black people. And if they come out and do the same thing now with this white crowd, then these white crowds will look violent. These white crowds will look angry, but they don't want to do that. So that's why you don't see the same aggression with Antifa in this situation, but you've seen it with the George Floyd situation.
For the second time this month, Daley Plaza filled up, city streets shut down for an anti-Trump protest. Today, demonstrators in Chicago coincided with protests all over the country. Arnold Brennan was on the ground listening to that crowd that carried signs and marched through the loop.
The more people come out, the quicker the government will change.
A sea of people at Daley Plaza want to turn the tide of the Trump administration.
There's a lot of energy. People are very upset right now.
The gathering, called the People's Protest, is organized by the 50-51 movement.
50 states, 50 protests, one movement.
The protest in Chicago is part of a national movement,
And this is nationwide.
calling on the government to uphold the Constitution
I wrote, "The Constitution doesn't swipe left or right."
and end executive overreach.
We were talking about the Constitution, due process. We're talking about free speech here.
Protesters carry signs promoting democracy and opposing actions of President Trump.
This is the other thing I want to talk about that I want to point out. You see, when it comes to certain situation, these black leaders love to come out. These black leaders love to pop out, like Al Sharpton, like Benjamin Crump, like Jamal Bryant, and now the latest one, which is Dominique Alexander. They want to come out and act like they're defending black people. They want to come out and say, yes, it's black people against white people. Look at what these white supremacists are doing. But I want you to think about this. Where were they back in Ohio when the neo-Nazi actually came out to march in Ohio? Where were all these black leaders protesting against these white supremacists, these known white supremacists, the KKK, the neo-Nazi? Where were they in Ohio? Did they show up to say, no, this is wrong? Did Jamal Bryant say, yeah, I'm going to pop out, I'm going to pop up, you know what I'm saying? Where was all this tough talk then? They didn't show up for that community. They didn't say anything about what was going on in that community. But when certain things happen, like the DEI, which didn't have anything to do with black people, it affected white people more. When it comes to certain marches and protests, and they want you to go out there and march and protest, but when it comes to real boots on the ground, when a real situation come up, where were they? Just like this new one with Dominique Alexander, it's two 17-year-olds that got in an altercation that shouldn't have happened. He don't even need to be there. But he's not where he should be, where there's real white supremacists showing up in a all-black community.
I know. Okay. All right. If you could calm me down, please. Let's get out of here. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I know.
What's up? It's a war, bitch.
Sir, if you don't mind. I know.
Get them the out of here.
But
This is bullshit.
I know.
It's causing a ruckus. They're about to get down with us. Do that in our own neighborhood. Stop playing!
Sir, get back, okay? Thank you.
Don't get masked on because y'all bitches!
Sir, get
You
back.
got a mask on because you a bitch!
Sir, get back.
At my own house, I pay property taxes, bitch!
Sir.
I own my
Sir, get
I
back.
own my
Sir,
I own my You understand why we're out here? My guy's looking for it. 21. That incident's been resolved. Nobody's like on phone. Get down here. We can get out of here. Okay. And we might need an escort. We got a vehicle right over there, a Jeep with a dog in it. One of our guys need to be escorted right over there. Okay. You guys start by taking the
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We'll get that all
Yes,
taken care of, okay?
Yes, sir.
How y'all gonna let them come in our community and do this, man?
They are allowed to protest.
And we are too.
Right.
don't give it to her. This is what they want.
Hey, come on. It's not working.
I got the wrong neighborhood.
Guys, it's
They
not
got
working.
not worth it. They ain't gonna come to y'all neighborhood and do this. It's not worth it, guys. Hey, it's not worth it. They gotta go. Hey, it don't matter how. Get out of here!
These aren't police officers or soldiers.
They're business owners, the fathers, the sons, daughters.
These are civilians, members of the Lincoln Heights Safety and Watch Program.
It's a duty. Okay, let's go.
The duty, protecting their neighborhood, the majority black village of Lincoln Heights, Ohio. After neo-Nazis held a rally here last month, carrying rifles, waving swastikas, and hurling racial slurs, just moments before children were let out of school. At the time, law enforcement officials said the neo-Nazis did not break any laws, but an investigation by county prosecutors is ongoing. Weeks later, the KKK came with these flyers.
First African-American community above the Mason-Dixon line of staff.
Safety and Watch Group spokesperson Durance Daniels says the police did not do enough, which was more chilling because the town was founded in the 1920s as a safe haven for black residents.
Lincoln Heights is our home. If somebody broke into your home, you call the police, and the police says, you know, if they do it again, we haven't broken any laws, so we're just going to allow them to break into your home again. What would you do?
Are you worried at all that having a potentially armed response could just create more friction, create more danger?
I'll answer that by saying I've never felt safer as a black man in my community than I have right now.
And so you see who was on the front line when it came to defending the neighborhood. That's a black community. Who was on the front line? Who did you see more of standing out there defending the black community? Black men. This is why I say black men in the household, in the community, real black men is important. They was out there on the front line. It wasn't women. Yes, some women was out there, but you see more black men standing up for their neighborhoods, their community, their family, their home, than you see when it comes to these other groups that's supposed to be protecting black people, who's supposed to be standing up for black people. No, you see men out there defending their community, defending their neighborhood. And you seen women that was standing right beside them. What the Bible say, that women are men helpmate? You seen women out there, but there was more majority of men than women. I'm also going to share another video with you with a different group.
They believe is the threat of right-wing militias. It's a movement started in 2017 by this man, former musician and Army veteran John Grandmaster J. Johnson. Is the movement growing?
By leaps and bounds.
We met with him outside of Cincinnati, where he says another new chapter is now in the works.
The NFAC stands for the Not Effing Around Coalition.
What's behind the name?
The NFAC was born out of the last 4 years under the Trump administration. The deterioration of racial relations in this country. It means that you're preparing yourself to defend yourselves.
While the group style echoes the Black Panther Party of the 1960s, their goals are distinct, focusing on defense with the ultimate goal of a black ethno-state.
What makes us so different is that our goal is our own government, our own country, a place where we can determine our own future.
Is violence an option to reach your goals?
The United States was built on violence being an option. Violence should be the last option.
Extremism experts say the group is distinct from far-right militias.
They have not risen to the level of concern of, say, the Three Percenters, the Oath Keepers. They have not engaged in violence. In fact, in most of their demonstrations, they have, in fact, coordinated their activities with police.
When you talk about January 6th, and we saw those rioters storm the Capitol, what do you say to critics who say you're no different from them? They're extremists, you're extremists.
Show me where we have done those things. They've killed people. They've disrespected the government to the point where they have invaded its sacred halls. Show me where we've done those things, because we have done none of them.
We were allowed rare access to one of their training sites at a secret location in rural Georgia. We are now driving to the NFAC training facility. We spoke to one member who chose to go by the code name Shy to protect her anonymity.
This one is the handgun.
Correct, yes.
And then what do you guys do next?
We are going to the area where we practice our primary weapons firing.
Why did you decide to join this movement?
It's for the cause. Black people, we need to learn how to defend it. This is definitely one way to do it.
Do you all, have normal jobs? You work in all different sectors? And
Absolutely. We're business owners, we're doctors, lawyers, we're your everyday person, anywhere from Walmart to the corporate sector.
What are you all training for?
We're training for self-defense.
A response to show they won't be scared or unprotected any longer.
And with this group, you notice that they out there with guns, just like with the last group in Ohio. They're out there with guns. Not one black person was arrested. Not one black person showed violence. Not one black person was out of order. Why? Because there are men around. It's not about it's not about violence. They were with the police department. When they was out there with their gun, they know the law. Different states have different laws. They know their laws in their states. They know what they can and can't do when it comes to carrying guns. They work with the police to say, okay, we're going to be out here marching. There was no violence. There was no harassment because they work with the law. They work within the law. They don't want to be the aggressor. They want to be able to protect themselves, to protect their neighborhoods, because they feel like the police isn't doing the job that they should do. They're not saying they're not working against the police. They're working with the police to defend their neighborhood. Just like I'm in Florida. Florida is a stand your ground state. So you have the right to defend your household. You have a right to have guns in your household. And so when you know the law, you work with the law and work within the law. They're being on the offense. Okay, I have a right to protect myself, to protect my family, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to let everyone else know that I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to protect my family. But you see, there was no violence. You see, there was no, look at these black people that don't know how to control themselves, that don't know how to conduct themselves. And that's the stuff you don't see on the news because they don't want black people seen as being organized. They want them to be seen as being disorganized. They want them to be seen as being aggressive, as being animals, as being whatever they want to show them as, with no order. And that's why I keep saying it's important that black men are in the household when it comes to raising their black sons. As a woman, I would never sit here and say a woman can raise a black man to be a man. She can raise him with certain moral values, yes, but a woman will never know what it feels like to be a black man in this world. So it takes a black man to raise a black man in the way that he should, in the right way that he should go. And when you have a black community coming together, the most important thing is, the first thing you need to defend yourself against is people inside the community that's out of order, that's trying to do things the wrong way, that's bringing on violence within the community. And that's another thing black people don't want to recognize or don't want to speak about, the violence within certain communities where it's against other black people, or where these men are in their household, SAing these little girls, SAing these little boys. That is like a disease that's in your body. You don't allow that disease to stay. You try to get rid of it in order to save your body. So when it comes to black community, all the disease that's destroying the black community needs to be corrected in order for the black community to survive, to thrive. And when you have organized situation where there are men there where they want to protect their community, now they can build another Black Wall Street. Because who's going to really just come in and take it from them? No, they know it's going to be a battle. People like easy wins. They don't like complicated things. So first you have to build a strong foundation. Then you have to build a wall around your foundation in order to start building wealth, because you don't want no one to come in and take it. You don't want no one to come in and destroy it. But like I said, these Black leaders, they don't want to talk about that because these Black leaders are not on the side of the Black people. And then when you look at the situation on April the 2nd with Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf, I will continue to say that was a situation based on the information that was stated. Karmelo Anthony should have just got up and left and went to a different tent because it wasn't worth it. He had an opportunity to leave. He chose not to leave. I'm not speaking on innocent. I'm not speaking on guilt. I'm not speaking on what should happen. I'm just speaking on if you find yourself as a young Black man or a young Black woman in a situation like that, and you don't have to be in that position, walk away. The best thing to do is walk away, because look at what's going on with his family, Karmelo Anthony's family. His daughter, his mother said his daughter is scared to be in her, to sleep in her room because of what's going on. They're getting death threats, everything that's going on. They have to now move in a different way. Their life is forever changed, just like with Austin Metcalf family. People called the police and had them swatted on. They are also getting death threats. They're gonna have to move around in different ways. So at the end, hindsight is 2020. But when you ask yourself, was it worth it? What did you actually gain out of that? Was it worth it? The answer would be no. And so then what was happening on the April the 2nd, let me show you what was happening on April the 17th that people wasn't really talking about.
The community at Florida State University is trying to grapple with the mass shooting that unfolded on campus as we learn more about the suspected gunman and his past. 2 people were killed. Neither were students, but 5 others were wounded. And this all happened just before noon near the student union, and we have video from the scene as the shooting was unfolding, but I want to warn you, it might be difficult to watch. The blurred part of the video you're going to see is a victim on the ground. You see the gunman literally turning and firing at students. One student was leaving the student union when she witnessed the gunman near his car. This is what she saw.
I look back and I see him waving around a larger gun, which I at first thought was a rifle, but I guess it was a shotgun. And he let off a shot kind of in our direction as we were walking away from the union. He turned, probably because he missed at longer distance, and turned to his car and grabbed the handgun out, the pistol, and he turned towards the union, and that's when I saw him shoot a woman in purple scrubs in her back, and I just started running. I ran a mile all the way to my apartment.
And she says she realized there was no target and that he was shooting anybody he could see. Now, students inside classrooms scrambled to evacuate. Some walked by police officers holding their weapons as they left, as you can see here on this video. And this is what students heard when they first realized something was wrong.
A dangerous and life-threatening situation exists on campus. Take shelter now in a secure location.
Police eventually shot the suspect, who is still in the hospital tonight. Authorities have identified him as 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner. He's a student of the school, and police say he's the son of a sheriff's deputy who works as a local school resource officer, and he used her gun to carry out the shooting.
Unfortunately, her son had access to one of her weapons, and That was one of the weapons that was found at the scene. He has been steeped in the Leon County Sheriff's Office family, engaged in a number of training programs that we have. So it's not a surprise to us that he had access to weapons.
As you can see, on April the 17th, you had a college student who was out, pow-powing around the school campus, injured 6, and actually deleted 2. But was that at the top of the news? No, because more people was focused on this black and white, when I don't see it as black and white. I don't see it as it should not be political. It was 2 students that had an altercation, and unfortunately it ended with one losing their life. Now you have another student on a college campus randomly pow-powing people, but what do the news think is more important? So that's why this black and white angle need to stop. That's why making everything about race need to stop. That's why making everything political need to stop. I always said I'm on one person's side, and that's God's side. I'm not on the black people's side. I'm not on the white people's side. I'm on God's side. And if more people looked at it based on just looking at a situation, what is right, what is wrong, and not focusing on color, not focusing on Democrat, Republican, and just looking at the truth, you wouldn't have all this. They push agendas of showing black people as being violent while something similar is going on a college campus, but it's not the focus because it wasn't a black person doing it. So that's where that mindset needs to change when it comes to black people. They need to get out of that mindset. There's going to be white people that's never going to like you. And you still got to go on with your life. Hate cannot be your main focus. What can I do to make myself better should be your main focus. How can I move forward should be your main focus. And like I said, I never said that as black people, you can't defend yourself, but you should never be the one starting the fight. You should never be the one who's if a person is arguing with you and you see you're not getting anywhere with them, walk away. Leave them there. Leave them standing there talking to themselves. Exit the conversation, exit the situation, because they're not worth your energy. Some people like violence. Some people like chaos. Some people like disorder. Some people would like to argue. They're not trying to come up with a solution. They just want to argue. Let them argue with themselves. Get yourself out of that situation and just go on with your life. And let them stand there and argue with, even if they say, "Oh, I won." See, I said, no, you owe them nothing. You don't owe them. You don't need, if you stand there 2 seconds too long, you don't wasted your time. Because you don't owe them your time. You don't owe them anything. If you're trying to honestly have a conversation to resolve a situation and you see they don't want to resolve that situation, or they don't actually want to hear what you're saying, they just want to talk, they just want to be right, allow them to have that and just move on, because it's not worth it. And this is the other problem I had with Carmelo's Anthony's family. What was the point of having Dominique Alexander there? He was one of these black leaders that did not add to the conversation. When they had that press conference, 1 or 2 people should have spoke for the family. The father should have spoke for the family. And if the father did not want to speak for the family, the attorney should have spoke for the family, because they do have an attorney. They should have had the attorney speak for the family or the father.
Self-defense is a protection that applies to each and every one of us. There are 2 sides to every story. And Karmelo is a 17-year-old kid and an excellent student. He is the captain of his track team. He is the captain of his football team. And prior to this, what was on his mind was what college he was going to go to. This is a tragedy all the way around for both families.
The two people that should not have spoke for the family was the mother, because like I said, they love pushing mothers out there. And if you understand what I'm saying, a man speaking, if a man is there present, a man voice will speak to another man quicker than a woman voice will. A man is not going to listen to a woman's voice. So the husband should have spoke for the family or his attorney. But you would rather push Dominique Alexander, a woman beater, a child beater. I'm going to read an article about Dominique Alexander. I'm going to start down here. Alexander was first arrested in July 2009 for causing serious bodily injury to a child. Police reported he's been babysitting his girlfriend's 2-year-old son for the evening when he called her at 11 p.m. and told her to get home now. But he didn't tell her why. When she arrived, she found her child unresponsive. Alexander told his girlfriend that he's been watching a movie with her son on the couch. He paused the movie, police reported, and as he walked into the computer room, he heard the sound of her son, who was asleep on the couch, fall off the couch and onto the carpet. But the doctor disagreed with his statement. He examined Alexandria's girlfriend's son in the intensive care unit and reported that the child had a subdural hemorrhage between the half of his brain and at the back of the brain. He also had retinal hemorrhages in both eyes. The severity of his injury is not considered with rolling off the couch, the investigative officer reported, the doctor saying. The injuries are acute. The injuries are acute and likely occurred around the time that his girlfriend's son started to have symptoms like being unresponsive. Without more adequate history of trauma, complainant injuries are more consistent with abusive head trauma and child physical abuse. Alexandria claimed that he had taken the child to play in a bounce house that evening to Royal Chris' apartment. But he told the judge, Gracie Lewis, on Friday that he taking the child to play in a bounce house the day before, yet he never reported the bounce house to the doctor or the investigator at the time. On Friday afternoon, the prosecutor read two statements that Alexander had signed not long after the incident occurred. In the first statement, he claimed that the child had fallen off the couch. In the second statement, he admitted to shaking the child. He was charged with a first-degree felony. Not long after he was arrested for injury to a child causing severe bodily harm, he got into trouble for forging a check, leading police on a high-speed chase, stealing a car, and falsely claiming that a car was stolen. This is another article about Alexandria. Alexandria, however, has a history of criminal accusations and sentences. The activist was arrested in 2019 on a felony charge of family violence after his partner accused him of trying to strangle her, KSAS TV reported. Citing court documents, his partner later signed an affidavit just prior to a grand jury indictment saying that she wanted no further parts of the prosecution on account of how the police handled the case. The charges was later dropped in 2021, the Dallas Morning News reported. Your son is being charged with something violent, taking a person's life, and then you want to have Dominique Alexander and all his baggage associated with your family. You have to think about the mental picture that paints for your family. What I said was either the husband should have spoke for the family or the attorney. Dominique don't need to be there. He's a distraction. He doesn't need to be there because he doesn't add value to that situation in no way, shape, or form. But like I said, these black leaders love to pop up and speak about what the white man is doing to the black community. No, it's them. They are destroying the black community because they don't want a successful black community. Because if black people stood up and defended their own community, what's the point of these lackluster black leaders? Why would you need them? They don't even preach the Bible, but they want to call themselves preachers, bishop, minister. They don't even stick to the law of God. And you really think they got your best interests at heart? They don't. My name is Delmarshae. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe.